Hi everybody! Hi Tamar! So today we want to talk about Jon in light of his argument slash conversation with Sansa in episode 1 where they had opposing views and tactics about how to rule and what to do.
The Umbers and the Karstarks have fought beside the Starks for centuries. They've kept faith for generation after generation.
And then they broke faith.
And we started talking about it and we found ourselves in a kind of disagreement. Is he naive
Naive.
or is he a visionary?
Naive.
Visionary.
We talk a lot about Jon
We do.
as in his leadership characteristic,
Right.
and we see him more of like a wartime king
Right.
and not a politician.
Right, and he's like part of the fantasy elements in the
Yeah,
story with
it's,
with his wolf, and he died and he came back.
Azor
Azor
Ahai,
Ahai.
maybe the chosen one, and stuff
Right.
like that. Yeah,
And I think Sansa highlights that because she represents something totally opposite.
yeah, the realpolitik view of politics
In the story, that's
in
a
the
prominent
story.
part of the
Yeah,
story.
yeah, and
So maybe she's the Game of Thrones, and he's the Song of Ice and Fire.
yeah, she lost her connection to fantasy in the first season when her dire wolf died. Also, it was like also symbolic to her losing the fantasy of like, being a queen and have lots of beautiful
Right.
babies,
Fantasy.
etc., etc.
Right.
And seeing, knights as murderers and kings as sociopaths, that kind of broke something
In her,
In her, yeah.
right, in her naive vision of the world. So
yeah.
now she's more cynical. So basically, what they're arguing about is what to do with the Umber kid and the Karstar kid and their lands and their castles.
I'm not going to strip these families of their ancestral homes because of the crimes of a few reckless sons.
So there's no punishment for treason and no reward for loyalty.
I think both of them make some good points. So why do you think that Sansa is right and that Jon is being naive?
It looks like she's more concerned about the Stark brand and the Stark name. And the
Than he
fact-
is.
Than he is.
Okay.
And maybe because he was a bastard and a Snow and probably not even a real Stark or not a real
That's
like
racist.
descendant of Stark. They killed my brother.
Right.
They killed my mother. It's not your mother.
half brother. at
Half
the
brother.
best.
He wasn't raised up being a Stark. He wanted to be in the Night Watch, and
Right.
he wasn't supposed to play a role in the Stark dynasty. So
But is that important? Is the Stark dynasty important right now when Jon is planning for war? Why is that important now? He's thinking about, I need more allies to keep the North intact in order to fight the Great War. That makes sense.
strategically, Sansa is right. The day after the war, we will have to start consolidate power, whether it will be in the north and stuff like that or not.
But remember that the reason that why Robb lost and died is because he did what Sansa told him to do. He punished a traitor who disobeyed him and went on and killed those two Lannister children. Then he beheaded Karstark, and then that's why he lost, because he lost like half his army.
Yeah.
So I think Jon is actually letting go of the old ways of doing things, and he's thinking outside the box.
Karstarks were a prominent family with lots of, soldiers, and Robb just killed their leader. And she's talking about,
Right.
two houses that are basically depleted already. They lost the war, and you want to establish yourself as a king, and he doesn't think like that. And
No.
she warned him, like, maybe it's even like half a threat. She's like saying, you're gonna end up like Robb and like Daddy.
Yeah, you have a
You
pretty
know?
face. You should take care of your face.
Yeah,
Make sure
yeah.
nothing happens to the pretty face of yours.
And you now were declared king by a 9-year-old.
He's my king.
So you need to take care of business first.
And you're not even a Stark officially, so you need to establish
Yeah,
yourself first.
At
Okay.
least when I teach, every time I go into a new class, I take the advice of Machiavelli.
Okay.
Start like that, and
Loosen a little bit.
loosen it a little bit during time, but start like that. Established borders, established boundaries. Make sure you're not somebody that you can stab it in the back, or you're not weak. And if your first act as a king, after you defeated your enemies that killed your family, is to take revenge and make sure, think like Tywin. Tywin, the first act he did was annihilating the Castemirs.
Right.
Not because they killed his family, because they
Right.
hurt the brand, and the
Right,
brand
right,
is
right.
very, very prone. You want to say the Stark brand under Jon Snow as the king in the north is a powerful, brand that you're not a mess and not like,
Okay, so
pity the children, pity the children.
So I would say this. First of all, the Stark brand, as you mentioned before, maybe the Stark banners are there, but the Stark name is not the King in the North's name. His brand, that's like a white label. It's no. That's like a generic label of the North. So he's thinking not in terms of this house and that house, he's thinking of uniting the whole North and the realm of men, because this is the first challenge at hand. You have to survive the war in order to have a day after. I'm not sure if Tywin's tactics would have helped against the White Walkers. So maybe there's like a stark difference here. Stark difference. That he's thinking about his long term is survival, and
Yeah.
she's already thinking about what will happen after the survival. They have both it's like a conversation between two people who can't even hear each other. They
Yeah.
have like a parallel conversation. He's always thinking about ruling for the sake of winning the war, and she's thinking ruling because if you're on this chair, you have to keep sitting on this chair. So
Yeah.
what do you need to do in order to stay there?
Yeah, in the trailer, you hear Littlefinger saying,
Don't fight in the north or the south. Fight every battle, everywhere. Always. In your mind.
this advice is for whom is on the top of the,
Food chain.
feudal chain.
Right.
They will always try to replace you, especially if you're coming not from the legitimate, agreed upon line of kings, which is true for Jon and will be true for Sansa and
we expect.
Littlefinger. That's why he gave her the advice, probably, because
Right.
he will be a Novus Homo, and a new man.
If he becomes king.
If he becomes king.
If he wants to become king, right.
So you always need to be on your toes, because no one is above you.
Right.
But everybody is like,
Right. You need to be a little
behind
bit
you.
paranoid, and I
Yeah.
think Sansa showed a little bit of paranoidity.
Yeah.
I don't know, how do you say
Paranoia.
that? Paranoia. First of all, she thinks that Cersei will come. That's so paranoid
Yeah.
because she will not come, and she kind of lost me there. I'm like, okay, you're not making any sense. But that highlights how she thinks,
Yeah.
which is very interesting. And also, if she learns from Cersei and from Littlefinger, like the two worst people in the story, maybe the two most ambitious people, they will stop at nothing to be
Yeah.
at the top. And if she's learning from them, that's like a big clue for what's in store. And we know that he was already a visionary at the wall when he let in the Whiteys go, and he was right, of course, to do it, and
Yeah.
he was super brave. And his downfall was not his lack of vision or his lack of political bravery. It was that he didn't know how to rally everyone around him, all his constituents, for this greater goal. And you might be right, he might be making a mistake, this same mistake again. You heard rumblings
Yeah.
that of agreement with Sansa, and maybe less than enthusiastic.
Not only that, they applaud her when she said,
The punishment for treason is death. Small John Umber died on the field of battle. Harold Karstark died on the field of battle.
They died fighting for Ramsay. Give the castles to the families of the men who died fighting for you.
they applaud her. They're like, yeah, she has some point. So I think she's starting to really like the fact that she says she's admired Cersei in a way.
That's weird. That was surprising.
Yeah, that was surprising. I think it's like, maybe it's telling us as viewers is like, okay, she starts thinking about it. Like she starts thinking about, maybe I'm the only one who can do that because Jon is useless.
I think you could argue that he is thinking long term. There are historical precedents, I don't know, in South Africa, the grand forgiveness, whatever they call it, that you forgave the oppressors. And also after the US Civil War, that they could have just ran over the South, Lincoln, and just taken everything. But no, he was thinking long term. Long term, you need unity. In order to have unity, you need to forgive the losing party. I know you have examples after World War I where you did something else and it didn't work, it backfired.
The Civil War in America was already done when he pardoned the South, which you could still argue that that wasn't such a smart idea to do.
The oppressed minority was still oppressed for 100 more years. Okay.
Yeah. And
so maybe he's more like Churchill. He's like the right ruler for this time, but after the war, okay, thank you, but we don't need you. So maybe the conclusion is that he's both naive and a visionary, and she is likewise both a visionary and naive, but they're talking about two widely different end games. Like he's being practical for the war,
Yeah.
and she's being practical for staying in charge, and since he doesn't care about that, as we see, that's not a very good sign for things to come for him.
You get the sense that the whole conversation between Sansa and Jon after this incident was kind of a foreshadowing, like as a warning sign to Jon, and also
Maybe to us.
to us when his reaction was, "So what? I need to listen to you."
You have to be smarter than father. You need to be smarter than Rob.
And how should I be smarter? By listening to you.
Like, yeah, you should listen to.
If you could take the good parts in Jon, the vision and the political bravery and her way of thinking practically in realpolitik, and combine them into one person, that would be like the perfect ruler, I guess.
Yeah, and you can't win a war when you still have enemies. And if you show weakness, like not everybody is a visionary, obviously, and Jon already failed in that at the wall.
Right.
So all these noblemen applaud Sansa, and then they see him pardoning two kids that they're just, it's like a stain in their eye. It's like an insult. They're
Right,
like,
right. They're
okay,
traitors.
this guy is weak.
So
This
why
guy is
did I
weak."
fight the good fight
Yeah.
if you don't reward me
Exactly.
over the
exactly.
traitors
You
and the
have
losers?
to. You have to. You have a win. You have to feed the soldiers. You have to give them the spoils. Otherwise, they will say, "Okay, yeah, we didn't see the White Walkers. You saw them. I'm sure they're terrible. Okay, but
Some of them are nice. I
But I
guess.
have a family. I have kids to send to college. You know what I'm saying? I need to feed my kids. I just risk my life.
Right.
You need to give me a reward. And you want me to fight with these people that I just fought against.
And fought and maybe killed my brother or my father during this war. I don't know.
He shouldn't expect people to be visionary like him. Like, if it's a concern that is raised, he should address it, because they will, they will think, okay, you're weak and you're not loyal to the North.
Okay, so I think that they're both right and they're both wrong. Like, he doesn't mind, I think, winning the battle against the White Walkers and then not being king. That's an
Yeah.
okay outcome for his character. This is a hint for how the story will end, like those two main characters, how the world will be at the end.
Yeah, and don't forget, he already ended like Rob and Ned.
Right.
Just,
So maybe next time he won't be resurrected because there won't be any White Walkers. I don't know. What do you think? Be sure to mention in the comments. And if you want to support our channel because you've been a long time viewers and you've been thinking about it,
Buy our shirts, t-shirts.
right? And go to patreon.com/GeoTechAcademy.
Buy our
the
mods.
link is in the description. And hit like. We want to get to like 4,000 likes so more people can see our videos. That will be a big help. And subscribe to get all season 7 coverage. We'll see you all next time. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.